Boy, do we have a lot for you guys today. And there is no better place to start than Erik Ten Hag's press conference, his latest press conference. He had good news on the injury front as well as bad news. With the good news, guess what? Captain Bruno Fernandes is, of course, he's back. Bruno Fernandes is back in full training. Marcus Rashford is back in full training. Lisandro Martinez and Scott McTominay have also resumed training. But with Lisandro Martinez, there's a slight hitch. We'll be delving into that. We'll be giving you a bit more details into that. He also spoke about his future, and he had a very interesting response concerning his future when it comes to what the owners may actually make of his time at Manchester United, whether the owners would want to give him the boot or not. He had a very interesting reply. And then he spoke on the big game this weekend. It's United versus Arsenal. Massive game. But I'm sure a lot of United fans are not looking forward to it. But do not despair. I'm here to offer you a tiny bit of hope. We'll be taking the trip down memory lane. We'll be delving into a bit of history into this fixture. And maybe it may rekindle a bit of hope and a bit of desire over this weekend. You may be looking forward to the game than you actually do think. And then there was the premiere of the 1999 documentary this weekend. The red carpet was rolled out. The stars were there to shine. And then they had the opportunity to see for the first time a documentation of the last 2 weeks of that magical season, 1998-1999. We'll also be delving into a bit of transfer news. Tosin Adarebayo, I hope I'm not butchering the name, but that's one name that's come up. The Muppeteers, our ever reliable Muppeteers, will be giving us, we'll be looking at what they say concerning all the latest transfer rumors concerning our club. And last but not the least, Sir Dave Brailsford has completed his audit of Manchester United. What does he have to say about our training ground? What does he have to say concerning our ability to make some form of marginal gains? You know what? Before we delve into all that, I want you to pause. Do you see the subscribe button right there? Punch it, hit it, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you do not miss any of these updates and any other video that we post on our channel. Let's just dig right into it. Captain Bruno Fernandes has finally returned to training. He missed the game against Palace, and boy did it tell. He is our best player this season. He's scored 16 goals this season, contributed over 22 goals this season, and without him, against Palace, we created almost nothing. We could not do nothing. We didn't have the X factor. Despite all his criticisms, despite all his negatives and all his antics, he is the most crucial player to this football club right now. And fortunately, he's back just in time for the weekend. Marcus Rashford has also finally returned from training. As you guys do remember, he did suffer an injury in the FA Cup semi-final game against Coventry. But then he's back in training now, and he's in contention for the game against Arsenal this weekend. Marcus Rashford in a big game against Arsenal is always a threat, irrespective of his form. So it's just welcome news. Scott McTominay, his Malam goal expert, is also back in full training. But then Lisandro Martinez, despite returning to full training, is just not quite ready yet. The player has asked to play, but Erik Ten Hag, I think he's sort of shut down the season in terms of risking players to be able to try and get results, and then these players getting injured again. He said Lisandro Martinez, despite requesting to play the Arsenal game, his request has been turned down because he suffered 5 different injuries throughout the course of this season. And he doesn't want to risk him anymore. He wants to consider the futures of these players beyond just a couple more games in the Premier League season. It sounds like a man who is just looking up to the cup final. Lisandro Martinez is a crucial piece to Manchester United. Our defense is decimated, and we cannot take any more risk with respect to injuries to our backline. Erik Ten Hag was asked a very interesting question in today's presser. He was asked that, like his predecessor, fellow Dutchman, Louis van Gaal, does he see a future at Manchester United beyond the FA Cup final, irrespective of the result? Does he think the owners will sack him, just like they sacked Louis van Gaal after he even won the FA Cup final? And this is what he had to say, as blunt as he could ever be, as blunt as any Dutchman could ever sound. He said he does not think his future is at risk. if the owners have any bit of common sense. Yes, that's what he said. If they have any bit of common sense, they would not be thinking about sacking him, because he believes that the owners understand that we have had 32 different backlines this season. We've had potentially 8 centre backs out over the course of the season. We've not had a left back this season, and definitely it's going to impact our performance as well as the results. This is the tangent Erik Ten Hag has been going up with during the course of the season. There are fans that buy into it. There are other fans who do not buy into it. We put up a poll on our X handle, My United Ball, and then we asked after the Palace drubbing that, are you still Ten Hag in and Ten Hag out? And it was clear that despite a slight tip in the favor of Ten Hag outers, most fans seem to be torn as to what their actual stance of the manager is. It seems to be changing results by result. Whenever we have a slightly positive result, there's a slight tilt to Ten Hag inners. Whenever we have a bad result, there's another slight tilt again towards Ten Hag outers. But then I think this is going to robble on all throughout till the very end of the season. And come the end of the FA Cup final, I'm sure there will be a lot more clarity with respect to Erik Ten Hag's future. Most fans are just tired of the season already, but then do not despair. There's still something to look forward to. There's still a cup final to look forward to. But before that cup final, we have a huge game this weekend against Arsenal. Erik Ten Hag previewed this game and said Arsenal is probably the best team in the league right now. But then we have to win football games. We are Manchester United. We still have to put up a strong enough team to be able to compete. A lot of fans would look to this and say, what kind of team could we put up? Erik Ten Hag made mention of one particular Arsenal player whom he does admire, which is Declan Rice. He sees Declan Rice as someone who could play for Manchester United, but he did mention one player who actually does play for Manchester United, who really doesn't often play for Manchester United, in comparison to Declan Rice, which is Mason Mount. Did Chelsea sell us a dud? Did Chelsea just sell us a second time bomb? Erik Ten Hag spoke about Mason Mount's injuries, that Mason Mount was not a player who was regularly injured for Chelsea, which is true. But during his last season at Chelsea Football Club, he did suffer a big injury, of which he did recover from during the summer. And then we did sign him. He did pass a medical, but ever since, Mason Mount has not been fit to save his life. For the Upton's time, Mason Mount has suffered another injury over the course of the week, despite training throughout the entire week. Despite starting the last game against Palace, he's not going to be available this weekend against Arsenal. He did speak, however, that he's hopeful that he can make it for the Newcastle game. That's the next game. And that Mason Mount is a very good player and he could have contributed a lot to our season. But unfortunately, Manchester United fans have not been able to see it. Unfortunately, he himself has not been able to see it. There are fans who were skeptical about Mason Mount signing in the first place. I'm sure they'll be tearing their hairs right now. They'll be absolutely livid that we have not gotten any value for money from Chelsea Football Club after signing a hefty fee, signing Mason Mount for a very hefty fee, 50 to 60 million pounds in a transfer fee, and we've not actually seen anything. If you're not looking forward to the Arsenal game, I'm here to offer you a bit of hope. The stats show that Manchester United versus Arsenal at Old Trafford very often goes in the home side's favour. In the last 16 games at Old Trafford involving United and Arsenal, United have lost only once. Albeit that was in 2020-2021 season during the COVID era. If anybody can remember Paul Pogba giving away a very silly penalty to Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, and we lost that game by a solitary goal to nil. Aside that result, United have lost just once in the last 16 league games at Old Trafford. We've won 10 of them, drawn 5, and we've lost only 1. This is to offer you a slight bit of hope. Further hope, United came under very similar circumstances against Arsenal in the season 2015-16. I think that was Louis van Gaal's last season. Do you remember Marcus Rashford Premier League debut? Yes. Marcus Rashford Premier League debut. It was against an Arsenal side that was gunning for the league title. They were third in the league log, just 2 points behind leaders Leicester City. That was in February 2016. Manchester United were wallowing in 7th position, fighting for their lives. Injury ravaged again. The likes of Wayne Rooney was not available. Anthony Martial was not available. We had no fit centre back in Smalling or Jones. We didn't have any right back at the time. Raphael was injured and frozen out by LVG. Our midfield, Bastian Schweinsteiger, could not stay fit to save his life. But United were able, against all odds, put up a strong enough 11 with Michael Carrick playing at centre back, if anybody can remember. Guillermo Varela at right back, Marcos Rojo at left back. Was it Schneiderlin in the middle center of the park? A midfield of Lingard. Was it Herrera, Mata, and Memphis Depay? And a kid, Marcus Rashford, up front. Rashford scored his first 2 debut goals against Arsenal, and we pulled off a 3-2 win, denting a huge hope in Arsenal's title race. Leicester City did win their game that weekend and went 5 points clear, and it never looked back. Arsenal could not mount any challenge. I think they ended up second on the league log ahead of Tottenham Hotspur, but way off winning the title. We did put in a stinger in their title hopes, and we could actually well as well do the same this weekend. So do not despair. Have just a little bit of hope that we could actually pull this off. I don't know whether I've been able to help in this situation, but yeah. It's football. Anything can happen. We could still pull off a surprise and still beat Arsenal in a way. But then clearly the odds are against that happening. It's been a wretched season. It's been a horrible season. But beyond beyond this game, there is an FA Cup final to look forward to. And if we do win, it could put a slight shine on the season. Speaking on the FA Cup final, there was a premiere of the 1999 documentary yesterday. Red carpet rolled out, stars were there to shine. Ronnie Johnson, Dwight York, Andy Cole, David Beckham, my favorite player of all time. He's the reason why I support Manchester United. David Beckham was there, Gary Neville. The stars were there. It was a documentary sought to shed more light on the final 2 weeks of the season, 1998, 1999. United were gunning for a treble. A lot of drama, a lot of things happened. The psychological aspect of it. United was not the best team in Europe. But come the end of those 2 magical weeks, United became the best team in Europe and had put their stamp in history, winning a treble. The club's first ever treble, an English team's first ever treble. And ever since, they have always been used as a marker as to the heights this club can actually reach. But after the documentary, the video, a couple of our legends had a lot to say concerning Erik Ten Hag's team, as well as this Manchester United's team. With respect to Erik Ten Hag's Erik Ten Hag's future, Gary Neville had this to say. We have to watch this video. He had this to say concerning what he thinks the club's decision on Erik Ten Hag should be.
Don't see any suitable replacement out there either at this moment in time. Bayern Munich is struggling to find a replacement for their manager. Other clubs are sort of, if you like, struggling as well. I think we should stick with Erik Ten Hag, give him one more season to really look at sort of, particularly an injury-free season where we've had obviously a lot of injuries this season as well. So I would say one more season would be worthy, and to see whether we can get back to sort of the standards of last season when we won a trophy and we finished, in the top 4 and got Champions League football.
And on David Beckham also had a lot to say concerning this team going into the remainder of the season, as well as looking forward to the FA Cup. That it's been a wretched season, that's true. That this team is carrying a lot of burden on their shoulders with respect to history and everything. There have been injuries. Erik Ten Hag is a good manager and all that. But the players should take it upon themselves to enter into that game, that cup final, give their all and try and win that trophy. Gary Neville did back it up by saying that, making a reference to the great Alex Ferguson's time at this football club, that in season 1990-1991, United were under very similar circumstances, where despite Alex Ferguson being at the club for 3 to 4 years, was not making any headway, but he got into an FA Cup final, won it, and that kick-started their reign, the reign of success under the great Sir Alex Ferguson. So winning this FA Cup against all odds, against the City team that everybody expects United to lose to, could actually be a turning point in Manchester United history in the next few years. I don't know what you guys make of that, but then that is what he had to say. Let's just hope, for his sake, for our sake, for everybody's sake, that we actually do pull off a surprise and do win that FA Cup final against Manchester City, our neighbours and our rivals. Let's just forget about the cup final now. I think we'll delve more into the cup final in the coming weeks. Let me just give you a bit of transfer update. You know this lad from Fulham, that centre-back, tall, lanky centre-back. He used to play for Manchester City's academy before making the transfer to Fulham. Tosin Adarabioyo. I hope I don't butcher this. I hope that our Nigerian friends would have a bit of sympathy with me with how I pronounce his name. I hope I'm right. United have been heavily linked with him. He is out of contract at Fulham Football Club. Wilcox used to manage him at Manchester City's academy. So I think that is where a lot of people draw a lot of links with respect to whether we may be in for him or not. The Martinez seem to suggest that United are in for at least 2 centre-backs, of which he could be one of them. The main names are Brailsford from Everton, Todibo, of course, from Nice's and from Ineos's OJC Nice, and now we have Tosin Adarabioyo also on the list. There are others like the likes of Ignacio and Silva in the Portuguese league that we are looking at, but these are the 3 main names that Manchester United is looking at. We've been linked heavily to this midfield youngster, Neville, from Benfica, but then it seems it doesn't sound so realistic with respect to the transfer fee that may be involved. Benfica are quoting as much as £100 million for that youngster, so according to the Martinez, that may be unlikely. We are likely to sign a right winger. Everybody knows who that is. It's going to be Michael Olise. It's so obvious. He's number 1 on our list in terms of targets. And an experienced centre forward. Keyword, an experienced centre forward. But Martinez is going to say that we've been linked with Joselu. About 3 or 4 months ago, we did speak to him. But regardless of whether it's Joselu or not, United are looking to sign an experienced central midfielder. Before I sign out, Sir Dave Brailsford has been doing an audit of Manchester United and has come to the conclusion that it's time to leave Carrington. Carrington is no longer state of the art. Carrington is no longer good enough for an elite football team. As we've said before, on countless time on this pod, Ineos have come in and are wanting to build a new Old Trafford, a Wembley of the North. They are now also looking to move us away from Carrington onto a new modern training ground. But before then, they should build us a new modern, very, very competitive football team. Once they do that, I think everything else is extras. All that most fans want to see is a great Manchester United football team on the football pitch, tearing it up and winning back to back to back, winning over and over and over again. If they build us a new stadium, great. If they build us a new training ground, great. But that we want to see an excellent football team first. So yeah, that's just about it. It's a long wrap. But then, yeah, let's just see how it goes over this weekend. Like I said, be hopeful. Be hopeful. We could pull off something against Arsenal. Be hopeful. We'll be seeing you again on another episode of United Today very soon.